Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and decide which film is without a doubt the worst film we've ever heard of. We have heard of it though. I'm Griner, and joining me today...
I'm Bootstrap Conan, and I'm dishonest. And a dishonest man you can always trust to be dishonest, honestly. It's the honest ones you want to watch out for because you can never predict when they're going to do something incredibly stupid.
And I'm Luke Morgan, and not all treasure's silver and gold, mate.
Man, I hope we're going to get some impressions from you tonight, Luke. It's the Pirates of the Caribbean podcast. Is it the original trilogy? The first three films, anyway.
Yes.
We might be able to eke out another trilogy out of these at some point soon, but...
I hope not.
How did you guys feel about this rewatch? Luke,
I'm shocked.
Luke, you strike me as a Pirates fan. You suggested these movies. How did you feel subjecting us to these?
What was it? A year and a half ago when we created this podcast, I wrote a list in my phone of trilogies that came to the top of my head. And so one by one, I've been ticking them off. Pirates of the Caribbean was like one of the first ones I wrote down because it's something I relate to. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, these trilogies. Yeah, like as in these trilogies, you know. Even though there's more now, but like I know Pirates is a trilogy series, and it's something I always had fond memories of. I loved them when I was a kid. They're films that I never went back and rewatched. Like I haven't seen these films since they basically came out in the cinema, except for Black Pearl, you know, and when it was on TV at some point or something like that. But always enjoyed them. I always thought the Jack Sparrow character was really great, and that's how I knew Johnny Depp because I'm a young person. So Johnny Depp was Jack Sparrow to me. So it was weird to see him in other things other than this. But yeah, some of them don't hold up as well, or some of them I knew wouldn't hold up as well. But they're still enjoyable. There's still a lot to enjoy, I feel like, in these films. But yeah, Conan.
Sorry, Conan. I didn't mean to cut off your excitement for these movies. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I am genuinely surprised, though, that neither of you seem to like these as much. Luke, I'm surprised because you picked them and you seem like the kind of guy who'd be all about this. And Griner, as an avid Mummy fan, as a guy who had my back for the Brendan Fraser classics, I'm shocked to see that you don't like these spiritual successors.
You really feel they're spiritual successors? I think...
I mean, they totally do remind me.
So in the same vein,
they do remind me. They're definitely those, you know, that classic adventure film, classic popcorn film. I just don't think they're... I still find the Mummy movies funny. I don't think these movies are that funny, for the most part. Like, I find them... I don't know, a little joyless, especially as they go on. They definitely lose the fun.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah,
without a doubt. But I think the first one they're not as good as the Mummy. The original Mummy beats the original Pirates, but I think the first one is.
Disagree.
We're not talking about the Mummy.
Yeah.
I truly think the first one like rides that really good spot of it's funny, but it's never too silly. The second one and the third one, like you say, goes off the rails a bit, but it's funny. There's plenty of moments I laughed and I kind of giggle at, and the action's really good. And I don't know. I think they hold up. I think the first one is actually a really, really good film.
Yeah, we'll get into it when we discuss each film, but like legit, I think the first one's great. And I watched these with my wife. She'd never seen these before.
Which
this was her first
is
experience.
unfathomable.
Yeah.
I know.
Like,
basically, popular Hollywood blockbusters, my wife just avoided. You know, she's watching some indie film about like two milkmen or something. But like
these were the biggest films in the
I know, but
decade.
The first one, the third one, she was asleep for the other half of it and didn't watch it.
Hey, me too.
Has no interest to go to watch it again. But the first one, she was like, "Wow, that was better than I thought," and was laughing like at all, like mostly Jack Sparrow, his mannerisms and like little stuff that he's doing, like where it's just the physical presence comedy that he does in that film. I think he does really well. But first one holds up really well. I feel like, yeah,
it does. It does. We'll get into it. So, I mean, to kick things off, Dennis Franz. Let's cast him in these movies. Where do we put him?
Davy Jones.
Davy Jones, you reckon?
Yeah.
No, Davy Jones is too good as he is.
Bill Nye is great in this.
He is.
Yeah, he can be bootstraps because he's a dead ringer for Orlando Bloom, like they keep saying.
He's better than Skarsgård.
No, he's good, but I don't know.
I was thinking Jack's first mate. Is it Gibbs? Is that his name?
Gibbs is a
I love
perfect one.
Gibbs is so good though. Kevin McNally is awesome.
He
as
is
Gibbs.
good. He is good, but he's he's got a nice role in every movie. He's a
Yeah.
portly fellow, a bit like our friend Dennis Franz. I think that could work well.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
All right, well let's get into some stats, hey. Obviously these movies are like mega blockbusters. So kicking it off, The Curse of the Black Pearl, worldwide made $654 million. Dead Man's Chest, $1,066,000,000. At World's End, $963 million. Huge
Wow.
films.
Yeah. People
Massive.
in for Pirates.
And I mean, like, obviously, they're still making these movies. The next two films made $1 billion and $794 million, respectively, as well. So, like,
Did Dead Man Tells No
Wow.
Tales make 700 million?
the funny thing is, it's the other territories. It's outside of North America that they made a lot of money. So I don't know if they found a Chinese audience there or something like that. But
Wow.
they
I am
definitely.
shocked that the last two made that much.
Yeah.
I thought the last two bombed just from like my knowledge of. I haven't watched them because I was like,
Right.
oh, I didn't even like they weren't even in my knowledge base really. Like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I don't
I
know.
think
No,
Wow.
the last. Sorry, you go.
I was gonna say I think I saw on Stranger Tides, but sort of gave up after that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Dead Man Tells No Tales came out in 2017. Like, that is not long ago.
No,
And if it feels in my mind like it came out 10 years ago and everyone forgot about it. But like, no, they made this in a recent memory.
I mean, Curse of the Black Pearl is the lowest earning film of all of them by like
That's excusable,
like
though.
150 million or something, like quite a margin. I
That's
don't know.
crazy.
I don't
Kind
love
of crazy
that.
that it's like this film series is like it's a Disney ride. Now let's
Yeah.
make a film of it.
Insane,
Same as
right?
Jungle Cruise. It's kind of crazy that it
Yeah.
spawned such a thing. But
Yeah, definitely. Like, well, I guess we'll get to it when we get to the first movie, but it's amazing what they managed to pull out of that. So, critical response: Metacritic, 63 for Black Pearl, 53 for Dead Man's Chest, and 54 at World's End. And they
oh, that's not right, man. That's not right. I disagree with that completely. But
no, I think
I'm
it's
interested.
pretty accurate, but we'll get there.
They're a bit close. I feel like there should be a wider margin.
do we have the Rotten Tomato scores, or am I
if you
looking
want them,
up?
it's 79, 53, and 44, respectively. Which I actually think tells the tale a
I
little better.
respect.
Like, it does.
Yeah, that is probably more accurate.
Space them out a little.
Oh, look at you guys. You're going to slowly come around to the Rotten Tomatoes.
When hell freezes over, like World's End itself.
Yes. Yep.
All right, let's kick it off with Dead Man's Chest.
No,
No.
that's not right.
Black Pearl.
Black Pearl. Sorry, I kept getting the names of these movies. Curse of the Black Pearl. When Captain Barbosa sends his pirate crew to kidnap Elizabeth Swan and the last remaining piece of Aztec gold, a blacksmith called Will Turner joins a recently captured pirate named Jack Sparrow and goes off searching for Elizabeth. It isn't until they all meet up that they discover the real terrifying truth between the Aztec gold and why they need Will Turner and not Elizabeth Swan. This, as we've said, this is the best of these movies. I think, like, the invention of these movies out of a Disney ride is kind of, I don't know, it's to be applauded. I think it's kind of an original idea, at least. It's not, it's not based on anything that came before it. And I mean, these movies are absolutely held up by Johnny Depp's performance, I believe. And I think Jack Sparrow is one of the most interesting characters to be produced out of thin air of the last couple decades.
It's an iconic
Absolutely.
character and performance. No one else could do that, and it's like so Johnny Depp with that. But it's like I don't know. It's kind of weird because like, what other pirate films are there? Like, I feel like it's not really a saturated thing. Like, I think of a pirate film, I think of Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, that's it, really.
Yeah.
I think it was a thing like back in the day.
Yeah.
You had
You can't have
Master and
those.
that's not pirates. Never mind.
But you had like old 50s, 60s
Mm.
sort of swashbuckling adventures, and they were all kind of, safe and sanitized. And pirates only kind of work when it's like they're interesting because we have this, which defines pirates forever now. Because, like I say, look, anyone thinks of pirates, they think of Jack Sparrow.
Yep.
And then the closest thing we get later is Black Sails, which is kind of like pirates, but the Game of Thrones treatment when they make that TV series.
Yep.
And it works because it's so disgusting. Like, it's, full of
I need to
violence and
watch that.
sex.
I need to watch that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it, but meant to be like surprisingly good. But it works because it's like, look how filthy pirates are. They were debauched, evil people.
Mm.
And this trilogy kind of runs that line of still being somewhat accurate to the time. Like everyone is filthy in them. The attention to detail is
Yes.
immaculate. The costumes are great. The dialogue and the script is so good. I was blown away, like the language in it, like things like "I'm disinclined to acquiesce your request." Most people who see this film wouldn't understand what that means.
Mm.
There is so
No.
much dialogue that using like jargon and euphemisms that are time appropriate that people wouldn't pick up on. I never picked up on it until this last viewing. But I'm like, that's such a great attention to detail, and that actually makes it really compelling because it feels like a whole different universe. It's not just Johnny Depp in looking nice, being like
No.
Gar and I think it does that great job of showing them kind of as this whole different thing and sort of a bit more like appropriate to what they were. And that's just they're really fascinating. There's a reason why kids always dress up as pirates and everyone loves pirates, right? Because they are really fascinating.
I mean, all through high school, I said savvy after like everything to teachers and stuff, like just to
You're the worst. You're the
Did
worst.
did you always parlay when you're in trouble?
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. Ballet. Yep.
Yeah,
Hello,
you're
Poppet. I'd use that all the
Yeah,
time.
that was a thing. That was a
Yep,
huge
it
thing, and
yeah.
really
so many
was.
people did.
Yep.
Yep. Good to see our friend the gyro captain from Mad Max getting some screen time again.
Oh, that's who it
Yeah.
is. Yep.
Uh,
I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
I enjoy him in these movies with his wooden eye. He finds ways to get into shenanigans all the time. They are interesting
Yep.
pirates because they almost never, except for maybe that the original invasion of what's the town at the start? I can't even remember. But
Port Royal,
yeah, Port Royal. So
England land.
so when they first attack that place, like that's about the most evil thing that happens in this whole trilogy, and the
for
rest of the
sure.
time it's just like shenanigans and silliness.
Yep.
Really, like they're
Curses and
not.
supernatural and
Yeah,
But again, it also rides that line well where it's like with The Mummy, where there is still violence that happens, like, people get killed. There are bad dudes who get butchered pretty badly and bad dudes who butcher good people.
mm,
And it's always, it's always off screen, so it's PG-13, but I just I love when blockbusters used to do this. They used to have, like, violent, confronting stuff just safe enough that you never had to see it. And so even though the pirates themselves become heroes, which is kinda stupid, especially in the 3rd one, it's still like it's never gets too goofy where it's like, "Oh, they're just having fun." It's like, no, people are getting killed still, and there are ships that are getting blown apart, and dudes are impaled on, like,
yeah,
logs and things.
like that's the thing. It's sort of a surprising thing. I kind of forgot how sort of scary or horror these can be.
Yeah.
So I started watching them with my kids. Like the first scene, like it opens up. I feel like the openings of all these movies are kind of creepy. So like the first
Yeah.
one, you have the boat with the girl singing on it, and it's just the little boy washing ashore and the golden treasure and stuff like that. But
yeah.
I remember as soon as that was starting, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, am I misremembering these films? Can my kids watch these films? And honestly, at their age, probably not. So we skipped that because, like, the scenes, like Conan says, they don't really show blood or anything like this or
No.
gore, but like, there's people walking up and s- like slitting people's throats and like, but
Yep.
they cut the camera and
Yeah,
like, there is a lot of creepy stuff in these
Yeah.
films, especially for kids. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah. A lot of it still feels like it has a lot of impact. Like I agree, and
mm,
yeah, I really appreciated how filthy everyone is in these
S
movies.
yeah,
And
so
I mean,
good.
we'll get to it, but the second movie is this. It's really disgusting. Like I would be freaked out as a kid.
Yep.
I mean, even in this movie, the walking skeletons is
but
pretty damn
there's a
creepy.
lot of
Yeah.
body horror in
Yeah,
these films,
Yeah.
like, really unsettling stuff that still today gives me the heebie-jeebies. So,
yeah.
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 Yeah, it's so good.
I really enjoy the introduction to Jack Sparrow on his
Yep.
sinking ship. Like
It's
Oh,
he
it's
amazing.
just barely
great.
makes it to port. It's
It's great.
it's just a good introduction to his character. Like he's just barely got it all together, but it all works out for him in the end. He's a very
Yep.
very fun character.
And I
And
think oh, you go.
it introduces, like, his whole, his sort of way to use his charisma and smooth talking to get out of things, like, "I'll do
Yeah,
this." And then as soon as he pays the dude, he goes and steals the dude's money. That's
yeah,
more than what he just gave him, and he's just like, "Ching, ching." Like, "Alright, I'm out of here."
It's
Um,
great.
it's a great intro, like, it's still such an iconic sight, like, that cracks me up, just him, like, slowly, like, sailing in just as it hits, like, under the water and everything like that. It's
yeah,
great.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think, like, Jack Sparrow I was reading a bit about him just because, again, watching this, it's like that name is synonymous with a certain type of character now, and it's kind of became replicated. Like I was thinking of things like Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey
Mm,
Jr. cover. He's essentially playing Jack Sparrow, but in that setting, and it kind of became a go-to trope, right? Of this kind of eccentric hero, sort of I know, unsteady on their feet for some reason, and like just kind of says
Drunk.
whatever's drunk all the time, says
Yeah.
whatever's on their mind, but it's lovable because they're always in control. Like it really becomes an archetype. And just
Mm.
thinking about that, like how I was comparing it to Die Hard in my mind, right? How John McClane comes along and rewrites the action hero for the 90s. And then Jack Sparrow comes along and rewrites the action hero for the 21st century, where he's a deconstruction of masculinity. He's not super tough or manly. He's actually quite effeminate in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of challenging of the masculine archetypes and the preconceptions you have. And you're like,
And
oh, but
he's a
this guy's
coward.
yeah, exactly. He's a coward. He's a
Yeah.
sleaze.
Yeah.
But he does have a heart of gold still, and he is always in control. And there is this real sense of like this is a new examination of what these heroes are, and it's really fascinating just how big the character became. Like you still find
Yeah.
costumes in costume shops and on Halloween and stuff.
Oh, there's always like after cons, like videos of this guy who just got the Jack Sparrow swagger down pat in the costume, like, and it's
Yep.
fun to watch. Like, he's a great character. I'm glad
Yeah.
he's. I don't know. Do you feel like we've gotten too much Jack Sparrow now?
I mean, I haven't watched the last two, but yes,
I mean, I
because
was feeling like that by the end of the trilogy, personally.
So
yeah,
that's yeah. So that's a really interesting thing. It's why the first one I think works better.
Mm,
Is Jack is not the POV character. He is not the protagonist at all. It's Will Turner and
yep.
to a lesser extent Elizabeth Swann. Those are the two characters we see it all through. And Jack is almost entirely seen from their perspective, right? Like we're invested in Elizabeth and Will trying to rescue each other, and they're
And
kind of along for the
yeah, trying to solve the
yeah,
mystery of who Will is and
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of the story. And it's one of those cases where it's like with Han Solo we talked about. These characters actually work better when they're not the point of view character by not having them as the protagonist. You can see them all in their kind of quirky glory, and that's where Jack really shines. Where it's
Mm,
not trying to explore the depths of him, but it's purely like he's so much fun. I'm along for the ride with him, but I'm seeing it through someone else's eyes. And you can witness the growth of Will and Elizabeth, and that's easy. And it's when they try to really unpack the character of Jack in 2 and 3, where it's like, who's this guy from? Why is he doing things he does? It kind of loses its direction a bit, and it
mm,
becomes he's not as interesting when you unpack that character. He's more fun when he's just this mysterious rogue.
yeah,
yep.
yeah, exactly. I I really like the Turner and Sparrow sword fight in the blacksmith.
It is good. Like it does remind me a little bit of like a theme park ride. Like there's lots of moving parts, and they're moving all around this blacksmith, and like launching each other up on this seesaw thing, and then fighting on the
Yeah.
rafters. Like and it does like all the fight scenes end up being like this, but they're a lot of fun. Do you guys think they go on a little too long? Like I really like that first fight, but I do think particularly as a series, but even this first movie, like some of the fight scenes at the end are they just go on and on and on.
All of these films could be trimmed by at least half an
Yeah,
hour.
they definitely
Like,
need like a better editor or something.
Man, there's
yeah.
some of them that could have been cut by an hour. I feel like
The the
so.
the finale in the 3rd one goes for about 40 minutes,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
it's so tiring. By the end of it, I'm just like, "Geez, I need to turn this off."
yeah.
And yeah, it gets more indulgent as it goes on,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Um, but that's the thing. What's your opinion of Legolas, Will Turner, Orlando Bloom?
I don't think he's a good actor, hey?
I think he
Legolas was made for him. I feel like they're kind of
Good
emotionless.
a
Like,
non-character for a non-actor.
yeah,
yeah,
silent protagonist nearly. I think he's fine in the first movie. Like I don't dislike him as this like,
yeah,
I don't know, he's kind of like he's always got the moral high ground. He's the good guy of the story. I
mm,
think he works okay as that in the first movie, but these characters they don't really grow much as the movies go on. Like they don't really change a lot. There's not a lot of character development, and
No.
I think it shows that's most at like in Will and Elizabeth. Like I think they're both very dull, and I
yeah,
don't think they know what to do with them after the first movie. Even in the first movie, I think they're a little confused because like I know that they don't want to get on the path of her being the damsel in distress, right? Like that's been
Yeah.
done to death, but then she still ends up being the damsel in distress, even though she's badass and can hold her own. She still ends up being tied up at the end. They still end up having to rescue her over and over again.
Yeah, the third one especially, the plot is so convoluted, and there's a like they separate them for half the film,
Yep.
and they're actually on different sides of it, and that's why they kind of really go down that path of his father. And you can tell they're like, we need this sort of we need the whole bootstrap Bill thing as an ace in the hole in case we get stuck, and they get stuck. So they bring that out. It's like this is all Will Turner. It's all about his father. And
Yep.
Elizabeth is really, unfortunately, her arc goes nowhere, which is such a shame. But I don't know, like Orlando Bloom, he does have a charisma about him. Like he does still kind of hold this film in a lot of ways, even though it's all the Johnny Depp show.
Mm.
There is still something about him, I think, that he can hold his own against him. But I just don't think he's a good actor on his own. Like, or his performance in this at least is not good. I think.
I don't mind, like Ryan said, I don't mind him in the first one.
Yeah. Okay.
Or even like I don't find him that distracting. Like when Grant sent that message in our chat, being like, oh, or when we were talking about it the other day, and you're like, Orlando Bloom's not a good actor.
Mm.
Um, I was like, "Oh, yeah, no, I guess so." It's just I feel like maybe because like, I know Orlando Bloom, like, I've seen him in a bunch of films and, like, I've watched these films and loved him as a kid, so it wasn't something that would caught me off guard, like, I associate that as him, if you know what I mean, like, I'm not
Yeah.
expecting anything better, so it wasn't something that distracted me watching them, um, but like, he doesn't, like, stand out heaps, but especially in the first one, I quite like him, and I know I liked him when I was a kid, but maybe that's because he was Legolas, and I was like, "Ah, it's Legolas." Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I
What about? Well, sorry. What about Keira Knightley? Because look, I know that your other half, loathes her. How did
So does
yeah.
my other half.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, neither of them like her, really?
No, no.
So, I don't want to badmouth Keira Knightley on behalf of my wife. I don't want to say anything wrong, but my wife, it's we all have them actors or actresses that like is our kryptonite. Nicolas Cage is my kryptonite. I can't watch him and
Criminal.
stuff.
He's awesome.
Except in Pig, he was great in Pig. But
Oh,
young
okay.
Nicolas Cage films, I can't do. And Keira Knightley is that for my wife, and she says it's all about like the way she talks, the way her mouth, like she's
She's
like
got a
it's like she's always like posing, like she's doing like a I
She
don't know,
she
like
speaks through her teeth a lot, I find.
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, she
That'd be the word.
does. You
That'd be the
know,
way to describe it.
Jack Sparrow. Yeah, it's like yeah, and I totally understand it because she said it, and we started watching it, and I was like, yeah, I was like, she's not great, but
I didn't see. I disagree. I think she's really good. I know, Grana. What did you think?
I think she's fine in these movies. They definitely don't know what to do with her after the first movie, for sure. Um, I think she's fine. Like I remember when they came out, there was a big uproar about her being not particularly well endowed in some dresses and stuff like that. Like there was this whole thing about them like CGIing larger breasts on her and all this stuff, and like
oh
I don't know.
really?
Yeah, there was a whole thing about it for ages, and like it's just so not the point of her character or anything, and it's totally
Nah.
fine. And I think she's
Yeah.
an okay actress. I do agree. She talks through gritted teeth quite a bit. It can be a little bit grating, but she's fine. I don't know. I don't think they know what to do with her. Even in the first movie, I'm not convinced they really knew.
Yeah. But like, that's like I was saying. I think that's almost the point. Is that their story? Ironically, their story isn't what matters, even though it's the story we're invested in. What matters is watching Jack just lead the way. But thankfully, we're sort of invested in their we're emotionally invested in their romance, right? In this story of she loves him, he loves her. That's easy. You can be like, I'm down for this. But it's not the exciting part. The exciting part is this weird pirate who's trying to get back another ship from a weird ghost pirate who's got Aztec gold and there needs to be blood for some reason.
Um,
If you're invested in Jack's quest there, it sucks. But as soon
yeah.
as you're like, no romance, you're into it, right? You can relate.
And that's why I like it in the first one. Like, I feel like, especially with Commodore and like his character and his involvement in it, I like that. But I feel like that arc completes itself in the first one, and like, there's no reason to continue
Does.
it after that. And it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. And Commodore's not involved in like this love triangle thing for the rest of the next two films, so I don't feel like there's that sort of I don't know, she's not really, like, oppressed, if you know what I mean, like, it's not like she's has to do this because this is what her family's dictating and all that, like, that doesn't really ever exist past the first film, at least. So
No,
Yeah.
no.
No.
You catch glimpses of her father here and there, but he's really not a character after the first film. It's
no,
weird.
he's not.
Do you
Yeah.
guys think Norring? It's I don't know. I always get weirded out by characters who fall in love with a character they knew as a child, like which is
First
That's
thing,
super
Norrington.
weird.
Norrington in the
that's-
first film.
yeah.
I don't know. It always bothers me. It always creeps me out. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No, it's everyone. My wife
No,
was like, "This is really weird. They fall in love, don't they?" I was like, "I forgot about that, and yeah, it's unsettling."
because it's like, especially because like, it's not like they cast a young actor to play him, did
No, he's
they?
the
It's
same.
it's
No,
him. It's like a 30-year-old dude with like a 8-year-old girl with him,
I
and then
mean,
like later on, he's like, "I've always loved you, Elizabeth." And I'm like, oh, that's illegal.
yeah,
Like,
it's not. It's
it's
not like
frowned
he's a
upon.
boy who was forced to work at a very very young age on a ship or anything like that. Like yeah, he's a grown ass man.
no.
Yeah,
But
bit
I also
weird.
I admire them doing that because that happened a lot back in the day.
Mm,
Like you would have 20-year-olds who, when the time there was an 18-year-old girl, they were like, "Well, I've known, I was friend of your father's, so we get married now because you're young and you'll bear me children."
mm,
Like I actually, again, it's kind of indicative of this back when they used to make blockbusters that were a bit more risk taking. Like you wouldn't see that in a
Mm.
Marvel film. No slight against Marvel, but you wouldn't say because it'd be like, "Oh, that's too questionable. That's too," and it is wrong. Like I'm not saying it's right, but it happened, and they're just like, "Yeah, this is what they did back in the day," and it's kind of
I mean, because Marvel's modern. It's very,
yeah,
it's not as good modern.
I mean, that's kind of the whole
that's
point
true.
of his arc in this is that he represents like the tradition, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
marrying him would be the traditional thing to do, and that's the thing that the father wants. So
Hmm.
it makes sense, I guess, in that context. But it is still creeps me out.
I guess it works because you never once want them to get together. It would be weirder to me if there was a part where it's like, yeah, I wish she would get with Norrington, because then the
Yeah.
whole time you'd be like, oh wait, no, he was into kids. That's right. But because he's always kind of the villain, it's
That's
like,
the
oh,
thing.
this
If he
this is
was more of a
fine.
hero and like, yeah,
Yeah,
I,
and yeah. So I don't have a huge problem with it, but it definitely, as soon as that scene happened, me and my wife were just like, oh, that's weird. I forgot about this detail.
um, I really like them like how he steals the interceptor at the start, like the whole plan to take this ship, then them come after them, then for them to swap. I just love Jack Sparrow's like his little lines that he says, like little quips at the end. I just love him being like, "Thanks for the ship. Like, would have had a hard time of it ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
just the two of us, we wouldn't have been able to get out of there. Thanks for that. We're off now." It's just, yeah, like that sort of stuff. It's really, it's, I like it. It's funny.
Yeah.
I felt like, yeah,
No, I agree. It's like he's such a great character. And yeah, there are a lot of jokes like that that work. Even things like with I don't know, whenever it's like Keira Knightley, she's almost passing out because of the corset. And
yeah,
she's like, I
Yeah.
can't breathe. And he's like, yes, I'm having trouble finding the words. And she just falls off the back. I'm like,
yeah,
that makes me laugh every time I see it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Why does
the
Jack jump
Aztec
in and
coin's
save
really
her then?
cool.
Can someone answer that?
Why does he save her?
Yeah. What's in it for
Because
him?
he's got a heart of gold. That's the
Oh,
whole
does he?
crux. He
Aztec gold.
quite literally, yeah. That's the whole thing, right? He's a pirate, and we're told from day one that pirates are evil. Like they're about to shoot him, and then they're about to hang him. So they're just like,
Yeah,
you kill pirates without question here, because being a pirate is enough to get you killed.
Mm.
But the constant dynamic is, and they spend a lot of time in it at number two, where it's like he's a good guy, even though he's so devout to telling the world he's bad, and being
Yeah,
like,
I
I'm the
guess.
best pirate ever. And that's kind of the whole thing. He's
Mm.
lovable still. He'll do the right thing when he has to. Um, I mean, you're right. There's no practical sense, like he dooms himself, but I think it's just meant to be that, like,
Yeah.
that
No,
he
it does.
can't let
It
his
does make
anger get him.
sense. It does make sense. I guess. I don't know. It seems. I guess the character up until that point doesn't. It seems out of character for him at that point. But I guess that they're introducing that aspect of him, right? That he's got a
Yeah,
heart of gold.
yeah.
How did you guys feel about Barbosa, Jeffrey Rush?
so good.
He is good.
He's great. He's really, really good.
That's the thing. They've,
Um,
they've got some star power in this film.
They do.
yeah,
All
yeah.
these films have a hell of a cast.
Yeah.
The thing,
Oh,
I was glad for him to come back. Like when later on, obviously, when he does, he misses a movie, but like half,
yeah.
most of a movie. But it's, I don't know. I feel like he's like the classic thing to oppose Jack Sparrow, and I like that sort of relationship more so than the friendly sort of rivalry they have later. I'd rather what it is in the first film.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I quite like the whole aspect of like the Aztec coins and like the blood of Bill Turner. I really like the curse in the first one.
I think the curse is a really good mystery. Like it's a lot of fun seeing them
Yeah,
unravel that and the turns that takes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
and the twist.
the way they use it at the end, like Jack taking
Yeah,
the coin to survive the shot and everything.
to,
It's good.
and to use his one last shot as well. That's like, oh, you
Yeah.
held onto that bullet for revenge for 12 years and you wasted your shot, and it's cool. And like even the visual of him dropping like the Aztec coin with the blood on it, and it looks cool. What brought up the Aztec coins for me, like when Elizabeth goes into the water, I really like the water pulsating and the weather just changing. Like it's a really cool effect of like the curse, I feel like. But
Yeah. I think all the visuals in these films are really good. Like they're great background movies. They're a really good example. Like, and I remember when I first rewatched these films, so I borrowed all the DVDs off a girl I was into, and I watched them all in like a week. I was like, these are the perfect films that I can just like draw or do something else whilst they're on. I don't have to really focus on them because you come in and there's a new set piece or something and it looks really fancy. It's great detail. It's always sort of the action's always pretty fun. Like the story and all that stuff that kind of matters in most films doesn't really matter in this. It's just you come to it for cool pirate stuff,
yeah,
and I'm into that.
I mean, in a lot of ways, the story is a way to move between these locations, so you can then have your new theme park ride at that location. I guess.
Yeah,
the the skeletons walking underwater, I feel is really cool. I remember like really being like, that's a cool visual as well towards the end. Like especially when they're all on the boats waiting for them to come out, and like they're just all under the water walking there, and yeah, it's
I
really
don't know.
cool.
I think the Mummy did a skeleton army a little bit better, a little bit.
No, it
I
did
was gonna
not.
say
It
let's talk
really did
CGI.
not.
Let's talk about
I do
this.
think the CGI has holes in the first film.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
particularly from an animation standpoint, it's very because they do a really cool thing. Like I like the idea of them cutting, instantly
Back and
between them.
forth.
Yeah, like oh, I'm in the moonlight now, so here's my dead arm, but it's attached to my live arm. But I don't think the animation holds up. It's very jarring between the two
Yeah,
forms. Which I mean, it's
Mm,
probably very hard to do, I imagine, even today. But obviously, CGI has
back
come a long
then.
way too.
yeah. There's a few scenes where it really shows, and
Yep.
it's kind of just, and even like the scene where she comes out and they're all working the ship together, and it's
That's
a
a
big
weird scene.
Yeah.
That
It's so
feels like a
weird.
Disney ride when like
Yes.
they're flying her up on the blanket. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, okay. Now I see where the Disney ride's coming into it. But
yeah. But like you see close-ups of a lot of them there, and it looks pretty ordinary.
Yep.
Like it looks very dated, I think.
but see,
Second, third one, different story.
that's the thing. Like I feel like there's certain characters that I feel like with the skeleton CGI effect look good. Like I feel like Barbossa looks good with the skeleton effect. Jack Sparrow does not. When we see him as a skeleton
No.
and he's moving the coin, I was like, okay, that doesn't hold up very well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that looks a bit weird.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But still, I feel like it's impressive how quick they switch between fight scenes where it's like going. And I mean, after just watching The Mummy, like these looked great. So
Come on now.
Yes. Why are you so wrong? I just don't get it.
yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to Dead Man's Chest?
I just want to say I really like the ending for the first one with like Jack and Will all this making the escape from the gallows, and then you know how he like throws the sword in to stop
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow being hung, and like he has his little feather hat on now.
Oh,
He's like a pirate to go join him, and
yeah, that's true.
yeah,
It's kind
it's
of
cool. It's
corny.
cool. No, it's a great ending. Great ending.
Once again, we're plunged into the world of sword fights and savvy pirates. Savvy, how do you say it, Luke?
Savvy.
Savvy pirates. Captain Jack Sparrow is reminded he owes a debt to Davy Jones, who captains the Flying Dutchman, a ghostly ship with a crew from hell. Facing the locker, Jack must find the heart of Davy Jones, but to save himself, he must get the help of a quick-witted Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann. If that's not complicated enough, Will and Elizabeth are sentenced to hang unless Will can get Lord Cutler Beckett Jack's compass. Will is forced to join another crazy adventure with Jack. These movies plots go stupid after the first one, I've got to say.
Even the synopsis knows that it's
Even the
convoluted.
synopsis is
Damn.
convoluted to read.
Wow.
I think the first movie works really well because the plot's fairly simple. Like there's some nice
Simple.
twists and there's a nice mystery there, but it's a simple plot that drives, moving between these locations, giving us these set pieces, and then they just get, I don't know, get stupid with it. It just gets too complicated. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like this film. Like,
So I agree. It's
I
good.
like Dead Man's Chest. I feel like Davy Jones is awesome. I really like Davy Jones, especially CGI. I feel like that still holds up.
It does.
Like,
It's very
he
good.
looks impressive, man. Like,
Yeah.
super good. The body horror stuff they do is disturbing with, like,
Mm,
mold and fish things growing off people. It's
yep.
disturbing. It's really,
Awesome.
really is.
Skarsgård
Um,
looks awesome with the barnacles going on the side. Oh, it's
oh,
so good.
it's
I hate
messed
it. I
up.
hate it.
It's
It's
messed it's
disgusting.
so gross, and
When
I
he
hate
when he
it.
talks, he spills water out
Yeah.
everywhere. Oh,
Yep.
I'm
Oh,
not.
but that's the thing, like, I feel like, again, the intro, I feel like it's really cool, like, you see the wedding day stuff, like the cups of tea, and it's just pouring down rain, and it's, like, all miserable, you don't know what's going on. It's, like, a really cool visual, thing to it again. Um, and Bootstraps, yeah, cursing Jack, I feel like that putting the black mark on his hand, it's
Mm.
ominous, and it feels cool, like, "Oh god, what's going on?" But it does get very convoluted, and yeah, it's a bit off the deep end.
I mean, we spend nearly half this movie without really even getting into Davy Jones and his, his
No.
his cursed crew. Does it take too long to get going, in your opinion?
Yep.
The whole tribal scene where
Yes.
Jack is the god,
Let's get into it.
and there's that dumb fight on the water wheel. This is where they take the Jar Jar Binks approach way too literally. And like in the first one, there's a handful of moments where Jack gets lucky, right? Like he does something and he survives, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's fortuitous. But there are so many moments in this that he should be dead, but it's
Mm,
just by
Yeah.
sheer dumb, like, how stupid can we make this that he happens to
There's
survive? Like the whole pole vaulting on the thing just irks me.
yeah.
All of
there's
and like
no physical logic to how these
no,
people survive in this one
exactly.
anymore.
He should be dead 1,000 times over, but it's always just by sheer luck that he survives. And it
Yeah.
makes it very silly. I'm like, it's still kind of fun, but it bugs me more than anything. And plus, that whole part is irrelevant to the plot. They're going to get the pearl, I think, and it's like you don't have
They're
to do
going
a
to get Jack,
no, but they're not
aren't
just getting
they?
Jack. No, Jack's in the third one. They go to get him specifically. In this one, the whole pearl is on the island or something. It is.
No, but
It's like,
they want Jack's compass. So
Yeah.
Will's looking for Jack, and he finds him on the island.
is it just that, or is it? I thought they wanted the crew as well.
No, they need the compass
It's just like, okay, so they're just looking for Jack
to
again. Yeah,
save their lives. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
It could have been easier than that.
I mean, the whole
It's
white man arrives and becomes god of your island. It's a little bit
it doesn't hold up
it's a
very
bit iffy. It doesn't
well.
hold
It's
up
not
very well, I don't
very
think.
politically correct, and that's the thing. I feel like it wouldn't hold up today, or it wouldn't happen today. But like, especially a lot of the stuff where it feels like Johnny Depp and Jack Sparrow is like speaking this made up language that sounds very like, he's like Malikalicky, like he's just like
Well,
doing very
I think
sort of
he is though.
what.
Yeah,
Like
he's just making it up, but it's kind of
yeah.
I get it, but that's
Oh, right.
where it comes across as kind of
Yeah,
racist,
yeah, yeah. No, I
you
see your
know?
point.
And for them to worship him and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's very slapstick.
yeah.
Yeah.
I find it funny. I do find it funny, and, like, I remember when I was a kid, I remember all the sequences in Dead Man's Chest being, like, my favorite, being like, "Oh my god," like, the fight on the water wheel, like, when it rolls over him and he pops through it, it's hilarious. And the stuff on the island, I don't know, when he's, like, tell him to stop throwing the fruit, and it's, like, lodged on both sides, and it's
So
just it's great. It's funny. It's
no.
funny, but it's bad. I get it. I get it.
I don't know. It's real dumb, and it doesn't. I don't
Yeah,
know. So someone needs to cut these movies like an hour shorter.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
yeah. And I think my biggest problem, I guess, and what the direction the franchise goes is that it starts to really lean into the lore, like the sort of mythology. Now, on one hand, it's really cool, like exploring Davy Jones and all like the sea mysteries is a really cool idea.
Hmm.
Having
Mm.
like, everyone knows what Davy Jones' locker is. Everyone has heard of the Flying Dutchman from SpongeBob SquarePants, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah.
And so to have these like this kind of using all that terminology and like, this is that thing that I've heard of. This is yeah, cool, cool. It all makes sense. And that's all really fun. But when it just spends so long getting bogged down into like why they're cursed, how this curse works, the weird rules we put into place, and then in the third one it goes batshit crazy with it.
Yeah.
But in this one again, like they're really delving into like they think that that's kind of what people want. They're like they want the mythology and they want the weird sort of supernatural. But it's like you said,
Mm,
growing up, the first one works because there's enough of a mystery that it's interesting,
Yeah.
but it
yep.
never gets bogged down into it. Like they mention parlay, they mention the law, the pirate law, and they mention the curse, and you see the like the skeletons. That's all you get. There's never
It's simple. It's just
exactly.
they're
Yeah.
cursed. They turn it they're unkilled, like they're undead.
Yeah,
It's an easy
and
thing for people to understand without knowing the history of pirates.
yeah, and it's never necessary. Yeah, it's never necessary to be like, okay, well, they're cursed because this is exactly why that happened and why that's bad and how this is going to work when that happens. It's just, but in this one,
Yeah.
they really start that whole how deep can we make this law that's pretty silly.
Yeah. And
And
I mean, there has to be a good story they can write about, like Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman pursuing Jack. Like
for sure.
and would it look? I don't know. Would any of you been annoyed if this movie had started with the three of them together on the ship? Like, because that's pretty much how the first movie ends. You could cut that whole first section out and just start there. Essentially, it's like they just needed
Yeah.
they needed to add a new villain in and put what is his Cutlet or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Cutler Beckett.
Yeah,
Beckett.
Yeah, I think it works. Yeah, I mean, like everyone loves a good rounding up the getting the gang back together,
yeah.
It doesn't feel
but
like this. It doesn't feel
No,
like
no.
it.
And
Um,
I agree, it works. I would have liked them just having their own little. They're already together, and they're like, "Oh no, there's a dude after us."
like here's the thing, like I understand the whole aspect of, Jack disappeared onto this land because he can't be at sea because he's gonna get eaten by the Kraken. And I do like that. I like the whole thing of he gets cursed, his hat gets disappeared, then that other ship pick up his hat and the Kraken kills them. Um,
Wait, does he already know that though at the beginning? That's not why he's on the island, is it?
yeah, it is. He gets cursed and then he heads to land. He puts the black pearl on the land and just goes and yeah.
Uh,
What did you watched it the most
I
Convoluted
recently?
watched
Didn't
this
plot.
you
like
watch it like
this. I
2
was like,
days
I
ago?
watched this like 3 days ago, and I can't remember what happens in the second or third at
Because
all.
why
To
else would he
but
go to the land? He
that's
goes
what
there
I'm.
to
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But
anyway. My main concern with this film, I cannot see how any of those pirates or any of them shipmates did not realize that Elizabeth Swann was a female. She's not a convincing male at all
No,
on
she's
that
not.
ship.
She's not. I mean,
she
that
wore a hat.
that trope's been going on forever, though. It's Mulan.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
like I don't know. There's skeletons walking underwater because they're cursed by Aztec god, but Luke can't handle
True.
the everyone.
No, I'll just say,
I know, I get
um,
it, I get
Oh,
it. It's dumb.
with the physical comedy aspect on the island and everything, Conan, what did you think of the bone cage, like, swinging?
uh,
It's bad. The whole thing is
yeah,
bad.
yeah. No, I'm not. I'm just not a fan of
It
that entire
it is
sequence. Really.
totally Jar Jar Binks, like
Yeah,
destroying the
yeah,
army, the enemy army.
yeah.
Yep.
And there's that dumb fish dude who comes to land, and he's got like the head. His head falls
Oh,
off,
the seashell dude,
and it
that's
becomes a
just
hermit crab.
annoying.
I'm like, oh, it's not
Yeah.
funny.
No,
And
he's
they're really trying to
telling
be
his
like, ha
body where to
ha.
find.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's like,
it's
no, that's a tree.
it's not good.
No.
Um, I don't know, like, there is, like, what you were touching on, Grana, earlier about, like, they could have told an interesting story with Davy Jones. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in this film that's interesting with Davy Jones. I love the whole thing about, like, his heart being in his chest, like, the key and all this, and the whole thing about trying to get the key and, like, this whole will turn a place in a bet, like, to find out where the key is. It's just all that stuff I really enjoy, and it's, like, tense, I feel like, to get
Yeah,
this whole thing and even the whole situation with the what is it, like, sleight of hand where who actually has the heart, who's got the chest, and it's in a jar of dirt now, and, "Oh, no, this guy's got it," because it's like I like that sort of stuff. I don't know, but yeah.
I do and I don't. I like it where I don't know. I don't like it when it's like no one really knows what's happening and none of the characters do. And then conveniently it's just like, oh, it's exactly where we need it to be.
they
Yeah,
play very fast and loose with like the rules and yeah,
yeah.
who's got it and
Mm,
why. It just gets confusing. Like it just convolutes an already a convoluted story, in my opinion.
yeah. Like they're obviously going for the whole pirates double cross each other, but they do it so much that everyone is double crossing everyone
Yeah,
16 times that it becomes laughable.
and
And
everyone's motivations are very nebulous. Like it's very hard to figure out why anybody is double crossing anybody else.
yeah,
Yeah. Or who's double crossing who at what point.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
like,
yeah, I do like Norrington coming into the mix and sort of and it kind of the story ends with him getting the heart, right? And that I like that whole idea of he comes in and just screws it all up, but he's got motivations. There's no like, oh, Jack was right all along. He's like, no, I just want to be who I was,
Mm.
and it
reclaim my
creates
honor.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it creates problems for the third one. So I kind of enjoy having that third voice in there, but yeah, there's so
Yeah.
much going back and forth trying to find MacGuffins that it's really it's not that interesting.
And then, man, Elizabeth locking Jack up on the boat.
A lot of sexual tension in that scene.
Yeah.
That whole love triangle. Ugh.
Breaks Will's heart, man.
It's it's very shoehorned in.
Yeah. It's like, oh,
Like
Elizabeth hasn't done anything for half the movie. We needed to do something quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much.
Put her in a love triangle. That's
Yeah,
all women are good for, isn't it?
yeah, that's a bit tired. But the Kraken's cool. The
You
Kraken's
like
pretty
the
sick.
Kraken?
I like the Kraken.
Yeah.
I remember again, like this is kind of the first thing that so many people saw of the Kraken, and then everyone kind of knew. Like this movie introduced a lot of ideas and concepts to people. Like the game of Liar's Dice, I feel like it wasn't really that well known, but after this, everyone sort of knew that it was a game. They didn't really know how to play it. But I feel like that kind of idea came pretty common. The Kraken, everyone just started using Kraken as a word. Like I don't know if Kraken Spice Rum started after this, but I wouldn't be surprised because it just introduced to the vernacular.
Yeah.
And that scene where the Turkish pirates have the hat and they just get swallowed is like again really scary. It's like,
The
oh crap.
Kraken's scary, I feel
Yeah,
like. It's like when it comes for the ship, it's like, oh shit, like it's on now.
exactly. Davy
Yeah.
Jones don't mess around.
No.
No. Davy Jones is great. Like what's the actor's name?
Bill
Bill.
Nye.
Bill Nye.
He's great. He's really great.
Do you think it would have worked if they weren't fish people? If it was just another crew? Or do you need that weird like do you need the
You
new
need it.
supernatural army, do you reckon?
You need it. I feel like you need it because I feel like that puts a threat because they're that disgusting and gross. Like you don't want that for Will. Like if that's just like
Yeah.
yeah, just on my ship forever. It's like okay, well tough it out, Will, but have all this shit growing on your face. Like no way, man. I want that for Orlando Bloom. No one deserves that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely raises the supernatural element to another level. Like compared to the curse in the first one, it's way worse.
Scary.
It's like
But but do you think it's too much? You don't think it's too like
I don't know. I don't mind it. I think there's so many cool designs and like everything feels so gross and moist and
Yeah,
disgusting. Like I appreciate
damp.
that a part of it. Like yeah, I'm glad we
yeah.
get that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just trying to think of like how you would reduce the mythology. And I'm like, you could make a pretty fun sort of chase film if it was just they were another crew who was still immortal for some reason or cursed to do something. But yeah, you're right.
I don't think
It is
so.
a good vision. You don't reckon?
No, I don't know. I feel like the whole thing of like, I feel like it's a good visual way to be like, oh,
Yeah.
we've been a slave to this person for 100 years. We're in servitude. Like, this ship goes underwater. Like, it's like they're
Yeah.
very much part of the sea. Like, it's
Mm.
not like just pirates that can rock up and they're,
Yeah.
a bunch of characters.
It's definitely a great visual way to do it. You're right.
And it stands
Um,
out. Like
yeah.
you see them people. It's like, oh, that's Dead Man's Chest. Like that's
Yeah.
that film.
And it,
Skeletons, Curse of the Black Pearl.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kraken Rum was founded in 2009.
Totally after
I
Dead Man's
rest
Chest.
my case.
Yeah, exactly. When was that film with Liam Neeson where he says release the Kraken and he's some god? It was after Pirates of the Caribbean.
Like,
That became
yes, it would have been.
it was, yep, 100%. So yeah. I like Davy Jones. I feel like he's a
He is
visually impressive
He's the most
character.
interesting new thing introduced in this movie.
yeah.
He
And
has a presence.
he's a great like replacement for Barbosa. He's a lot more sort of sinister,
Yeah.
but still oh, he's got like a wicked sense of humor as well. And the way he gets all up in your face and he's like, do you fear death?
Yep.
And it's just like I don't know, you can tell he's kind of got it, yeah.
He's like
He's
Just
got
love
some
the
he's
little like
fingering you with his tentacles and stuff.
yeah,
Like yeah, it's
it's
creepy
awesome.
as.
It is. It's really good.
he has like the little tentacles that like pop and like make noise and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's gross. It's great.
He
Uh,
sucks.
Do you guys think this ending is pretty unsatisfying though? Like I understand they're setting up for the final film, but
Very anticlimactic
yeah.
ending. There's like no resolution, I feel
What
like.
what happens again? I know that Dude Ma turns up at the end.
Yeah, so they go see Calypso and basically say we've got to get Jack back, and then they get Barbosa as their captain.
We
That's
have to
yeah,
go
that's it.
to World's End.
Yeah, it is.
And
I forgot that they filmed these in tandem.
because
Um,
World's End came out the year after. So it was
Mm.
very
yeah,
much like a see you in a couple months at the cinema for
yeah.
the next part.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that, but it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Although, whenever we see this happen, there's always kind of a non-ending because they know you're in for it. And they came back and they still dropped nearly $1 billion on the third one. So
It's
Man,
true.
Deadman's just making over $1 billion is crazy. I knew they were popular, but man,
A lot of
I'm
money.
not surprised.
that's
I don't think I'm surprised there was even a person in anyone's household here that hadn't seen these films. Like my wife doesn't watch
yeah.
movies. She knew these films, she'd seen them. And
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, the second and third aren't as good. And I was like, whoa, you actually have opinions about this? This is cool. Everyone saw these movies. Are like,
Yeah.
I think again, like with DVD sales, I don't think there would be a household that has DVDs that wouldn't own these three. It's just like the safest trilogy to buy.
I'm pretty sure we have one of them under our TV. We don't have the second and third, but
Do you only have
so-
At World's End?
no, we only have the first film.
Uh,
My favorite.
All
It's an
right.
extra hour long.
Speaking of Luke's favorite, shall we move on? Move on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow is trapped in Davy Jones' locker when he finds that Will Turner, Barbosa, Elizabeth Swann, and Tia Dalma had sailed to World's End to get him back. But while they are doing that, Beckett starts to get his revenge on the pirates using Davy Jones. This leads to a dramatic climax as Tia, who is really Calypso, Davy Jones's lover, unleashes a storm, and the two ships, the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman, commanded by Elizabeth, the new pirate king thanks to Jack, and Davy Jones, respectively.
Holy
David
shit.
David Jones.
David
Call him David
Jones.
Jones.
David Jones. Davy
David
Jones.
Jones. Um, man, this film, like, I
So
don't like this film.
it's
It's
so long.
so long,
It's very long.
and I don't remember anything from it. I feel like it's so like you were talking earlier, Conan, about like the third act of this film taking ages. I feel like before that, I feel like getting Jack out of Davy Jones' locker goes
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
and like
No, they're
seeing
both bad.
50 Jack Sparrows interact with each other, being kooky and Jar Jar Binks all around the place. This is where I don't like the comedy. And I'm like, it's just, I don't like it. And it's very
Yeah.
boring and dull, I feel like. And I just couldn't get into this film. And yeah.
Yeah. You go, Grana.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, that the whole is getting him out of Davy Jones, and like, all the rocks turn into crabs, and then they turn into the thing that moves the shit. Like, it's all like, oh, let's be random. I
Yeah.
hate it. I really hate it. It's just like I'm so random, guys.
We're trippy.
Real white girl talk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
It makes no sense. Like he gets out of there for no apparent reason. You're right. It's like this. The film stuff is so bad. From like it has got an hour-long setup because you've got the whole Singapore thing first, which introduces a character who has no point
Oh,
because
all the stuff with Singapore.
and like again, it's a cool visual. I love that. I like the visual of like this weird moist bathhouse. There's so much moisture in these films, which makes sense. But
Yeah.
like this weird, gross bathhouse. But yeah, it's just this whole setup to introduce Chow Yun Fat's character, who then doesn't have a point because you just need Elizabeth to be a captain, apparently. So it's all redundant.
Yep.
And so it's like an hour that doesn't need to be there, and then the last hour also doesn't need to be there because it's just a big fight between three groups. I don't know. I wasn't horribly bored watching this. I was still like, this is a great background movie. Because there are scenes every now and then that are fun. Like I enjoy the confrontation on the when they go to that weird little desert island and it's like the Pearl versus the fleet. And they kind of like figure out how to trade and I know I enjoy stuff like that. But then again, a day after I watched it, I couldn't remember anything that
Yeah.
happened. And I'm like,
I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? This happened?
And you watched this like yesterday, didn't you? Or 2 days ago?
literally 24 hours after I watched it, I was like, I can't remember the plot of that film. I remember
No,
there's the Singapore thing. There
because there's
is
so much.
there's the Pirate Council, which has Keith Richards for some strange reason.
Oh, man.
And
Like,
yeah,
it's just yeah.
I was looking at reviews and they're all like, "Oh, Keith Richards in a surprising performance." I'm like, he's in there for 5 seconds and he does nothing. What's the point?
Yep.
And before we move on from Singapore, I just want to say it has my second least favorite trope after rerouting power to fix mechanical problems. The too many weapons trope, where I've got a
Oh my
weapon in
god!
here and here and
oh,
here.
it's so
I
That's
not
hate
what I
it.
was
funny.
waiting to say. Is like the
Oh,
comedy of her removing the guns goes for way too long as well, and it's not funny at all.
The
no,
Joker's
it's
never been
not.
Oh,
funny. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. That's yeah. The
thank
com
you. A lot of tropes.
the comedy doesn't land in this film. Like
No.
there's no good comedy in the third one. I fully agree. The only part that's funny is in the Pirate Council when they just get in a fight and one of them just like says a thing and then goes to shoot and he misses and then they just get in a brawl. It's like, yeah, it's fun.
What about where the pieces are 8 are just whatever they had on them at the time, and it's like old mate's wooden eye, and
Yeah.
you don't enjoy that? I thought that was funny.
I still don't understand the rules.
Oh, there's no rules.
They're
They're
more
pirate. They're more
guidelines,
guidelines.
really.
That's right.
Can we talk about how ludicrous that concept is? So in the first film, right, pirates are the whole idea is like we are free. We have no
Yeah.
rules. There's the mention of the code that is guidelines. And then in the third one, Keith Richards literally shoots a pirate dude because he's like, no, the law is the law. I'm like, what? You are the most legalistic group here. And it's the weirdest thing. They're like, no, we are bound to this law that we will like. We have legal systems devoted to this. It makes no sense.
I mean, they elect a king. How free are they? Like,
That's
it's
what I mean.
it's so
It's
stupid.
silly.
Yeah.
It's just because one person voted like for someone twice. They got 2 votes, so it's just like, well,
It's not
she's the
majority vote.
queen.
It's just whoever gets
It's,
more votes than anyone else. It's dumb. It's real
it's
bad.
democracy. Yeah.
That's the thing. I feel like there's so much of this movie, and like I think about all the stuff from it. And do you know who's completely reduced? Davy Jones, by being he's Beckett's bitch.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he doesn't feel threatening anymore because
I
Beckett's
love
just like,
that
really? I
because
don't.
it undoes everything from the second. The second one, he is super scary, and it kind of
Yeah,
adds.
I don't like that. He's scary. He should be
But
scary.
this adds to how evil the East India Company is, man. Colonialism was the monster all along.
Oh yeah. But then the final act is like, no, Davy Jones is the big bad again. All of a sudden, when he's just
Yeah.
been this dude's servant for the last 2 hours and he hasn't been intimidating. Now he's putting tentacles in people's eyes and
Oh,
shit. Now
that
he's
scene is
it's
dope.
brutal.
So
It's
good.
brutal.
And
Yeah.
you see him, yeah. No, the worst thing in this film is when Beckett's ship's getting blown up and he does the slow-mo walk past the
I love that
stairs.
meme.
I hate it so much. Every time that's it. And the
The
other thing
whole
I
ship
hate,
gets destroyed.
and there's that, and there's the one where Will and Elizabeth are getting married during the fight.
Yeah. It's real dumb.
And you can tell Jeffrey Rush is like having fun, but also better than this. And he's just like, "Gar, ye scurvy dogs, we're gathered here." I'm like, "Oh, you're bringing a lot of heat, man, but you're better than this."
Camping it up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do I do like the whole thing, like, you see Will's dad, Bootstrap's Bill, like part of the ship and he's like
Mm,
way worse. He doesn't remember stuff, like he's got dementia, it
mm,
seems like, and then he actively is trying to foil their plan because he's just like, no, part of the ship, part of the crew, or
yep.
whatever. Like
yeah,
Yep.
I do like that aspect.
Yep.
Even like he's fighting Will at the end, and I do like what they do with Will in this one, especially towards the end. I like him taking over basically and running things differently. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's nice him having sort of he becomes the captain, like he fulfills his destiny as being a pirate. But what do you guys like the scene where they're coming back from World's End and there's all the boats coming the other way with all like the lost souls?
Yeah, that scene happens. I remember that scene.
Okay then.
I watched that.
I did
I
watch
I,
that.
watched that.
I was like, that's fine. And it's kind of cool that she like calls out to her dad, and
yeah, I
he's
thought
like,
That's cool, and that's how she finds out he's
yeah,
dead.
it's like,
I
yeah,
think that's cool because
I
we
think
didn't
that
even know he's dead, did we?
no,
Like
no,
it's assumed, but yeah, it's
like
crazy.
I don't know that I found that scene surprisingly touching because Jonathan Price is a really good actor,
He is.
and in the first one he's good. Oh yeah, he's pretty good in the first one. In the second one, he's lovable because he's a good guy again. And so, sort of seeing this end here, it's like I don't know. I found that actually a surprisingly fitting way to, and he's just like, "I'm so proud of you," and she's trying to rescue him. I was like, "Oh, I don't know, there are scenes like that in this film that work super well. There are moments where I'm like, Gore Verbinski, good director, but there's a lot of filler.
Yeah, yeah. I like where she's trying to rescue him, and the rope's just slowly slipping away, and then it just falls into the water. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
that's her hope slipping away. Like it's
Mm,
nice. It's good. How
it's,
much of a non-character is Calypso, despite the whole plot like revolving around her?
And then it doesn't even seem like a big deal when she
No.
dissipates. She's just
she
like, "It's a
becomes a
storm."
she becomes a storm.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I just it's weird because they talk her up as such a big threat,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you can't release her." And I had a moment, like, I'd forgotten this whole plot of her being Calypso, like, watching this again, and then it comes up, I was like, "Oh, shit." Like, what happens? Oh, she makes a storm,
She
It's
turns
and
into
they spin
crabs.
around.
yeah,
Yeah. Crabs everywhere.
she's got crabs.
Oh,
It's,
man.
it feels so unearned as well because in the second one, she's just the sorcerer, Tia Dalma, or the shaman or whatever she is.
Yeah.
And then in this one, they're just like the entire plot is like Calypso, and everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, we've talked about that before." No, you've never mentioned Calypso once.
Yeah.
And then it's just this weird thing, it's like, "Oh, yeah, it's that character we've had all along." It's that small world syndrome where, like, the shaman they went to just happens to be a god in human form. Like, yeah, okay. It's very convenient, guys.
Yeah. It's weird, and, like, yeah, that she's Davy Jones's love
Yeah,
interest, and
again, it's like, how convenient.
yeah. It is cool to see him in human form for that scene when she
Mm.
takes the curse off him or whatever,
Mm.
but yeah.
Why can Davy Jones just teleport?
It's dumb.
That's a new thing that he just
Yeah.
starts walking through walls, isn't it? I
He's
was like,
part of
"How'd
the
he do
ship.
that?"
But
Oh,
also
yeah,
when but he also
I
gets
guess.
across ships because there's a part where Jack looks at him on the ship, and then he
And he
takes
just
the
shows
telescope
up
That's
down,
in
true. Yeah.
front.
and they're on the ship, and they're like, "Oh, what?" Like, he's just magic somehow. It's
Yeah, he's Davy Jones, man.
why isn't he off I don't know.
It's weird that these movies are like shot back to back. I assume they were written at the same time, and it's like, let's give Davy Jones a bunch of powers he didn't have in the last movie.
That's what I mean,
It's
they
strange.
introduce stuff. It's no, yeah, I don't get it.
Um, like, honestly, one of the most memorable things about this, I feel like this, again, I've said it for the last two, has a really creepy opening of, like, the mass hanging. And, like,
Yeah,
and,
Singing
like, the
that song.
kid and singing the song. I was like, "Man, this is creepy. This is messed up." Like, it feels really dark and ominous,
yeah.
but
It does.
No,
yeah.
that they all it's funny because the openings are all very dark and somber, and then the tones of the
Yeah.
films aren't that. They're all quite
Then it goes
fun.
to Jack on an island being like, "Malika licky, da, da, da,
Like, yeah, legit.
throw
It's
fruit at me."
it's
Like,
always it takes me back. I'm like, "Oh, I kinda wanna see the really dark,
the
horrible version."
dark, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
I
Release
wanna
the,
I wanna
r
see Horror Pirates.
yeah, release the director's cut.
It's 4.5 hours. That's what I'm
Yep,
in for.
yep. Another hour in Davy Jones's locker.
It just
It
it
gets
just
way trippier.
it just gets filthy justice,
Yep.
just real explicit.
Oh, man.
I mean, a man with infinite time on his hands, what is he going to do with himself?
What else? Some Jack on Jack action. Do you guys like the score and the general theme?
I do
Yes.
enjoy the theme. Like whenever it comes up, I'm like this is well done. I appreciate this. Like I like a movie. I like a movie that knows how to use its themes.
Mm, mm.
Is it who is it again? Is it
So it's credited as Hans Zimmer in the
that's
second
right?
and third, but the first one was written by one of his students. And so there is some, depending who you talk to, some people say it's entirely Hans Zimmer, some people say it's not at all Hans Zimmer. But he's definitely the composer on the other two.
Yeah, like, I feel like it's one of the things, like, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, they're, like, iconic themes that people
Yeah.
hear it and straight away relate it to that.
Yeah. I kind of forgot it, but when I heard, I'm like, oh, of course I know this.
Yeah.
Like everyone
Yeah,
knows this theme.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All my
what a
notes for this
bummer way
movie
to
are
end the
just
trilogy.
all my notes for this movie are just like, man, this movie drags on. Why are they walking down the
Yeah.
beach so slow? Ah,
Yep.
You don't like
Yep.
a good beach walk?
I mean, sure. I don't like watching other people do it though.
I don't like watching them with like 6 layers of clothing walking in the sun.
Mm,
I'm like, that would be miserable. Like, can you imagine how gross you would feel when you got like the shirt and a
And you're
vest,
wet, like the
and yeah, you're
You're
sopping wet. You got
wet all the
a
time.
coat over that.
You've probably never
Yeah,
showered, like
yeah, yeah. So you like they're throwing alcohol on each other all the time. So you were just sticky. Like, oh, it would be awful.
I do. I completely forgot to mention the first one. I do like the whole when she burns all the rum and like the whole, mystique around how he escaped the island
Yeah.
was he just got wasted and picked up basically.
Picked up by smugglers.
I like how he's like,
Yep.
"Oh, this is never gonna work," and then it works. He's like, "Oh, she's gonna be insufferable after this."
Yep.
It's pretty funny.
Yep.
Alright, well, I mean, I find it funny how little we had to talk about after the first movie, but that's it. That's
E
covered. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep.
Is it in order? Just the first movie's the best, second's in the middle, third's the worst?
Second's the
Yeah.
best.
Are you
Really?
serious?
No, I'm
Oh,
kidding. No.
ooh.
No. I used to believe Dead Man's Chest was the best. When I first watched it, I really liked Davy Jones. I thought he was really cool.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, like you
a lot of
can't.
people do.
The first one's such a better film. But
Yeah.
yeah.
The first one
First, second,
is,
third.
yeah. Like you're right, Davy Jones is a great addition to the cast, but it suffers by not having Barbosa. And I think Jeffrey Rush really brings a lot to the table in both the first and the third. Like he's awesome. He's got such a good just piratey voice and pirate
Yep.
swagger about him.
Like that line that he delivered, like, "You best start believing in ghost stories, like, you're in one." Like,
Yeah.
it's great. That's a classic line, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
great. And his monkey that just hangs around the whole time
Yeah.
as a skeleton.
He's got a monkey on his
Why
shoulder.
is it still undead?
Great question.
Then doesn't
Had
it
the same
steal a piece
question.
of gold at the end or something? I feel
Oh,
like it takes a piece of
maybe.
gold at the end.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Yeah.
It scared the crap out of me when it was a skeleton, the second one. I was like, "What? Why is it?" I
That's what it
forgot. I don't know what's
is.
going on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's I really want to see the fourth and the fifth. I really want to
I have seen them.
know
I
what
saw the
happens.
fourth in the cinema, I'm pretty sure, from memory.
Is that the one with is there mermaids in it?
Yeah. And it's got
See,
there's
I
mermaids
have
and it's got Ian McShane.
yeah, I have a vague memory of number 4, like, watching it on DVD at a friend's house and not remembering any of it or sleeping or walking out halfway through it. I just remember
I'm
being
leaving
like,
your house.
I just I was like, "I'm going home. This
I can't
where
stand
is Orlando Bloom and where's Davy Jones? I don't know who any of these people are."
Oh
And then I
no.
know the last one had, what's his name in it?
Javier.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe I
Also
should go
like
watch the 4th and 5th one.
I'm genuinely curious, yeah.
Well, I mean, we
Like,
might cover them as a trilogy when the third of that lot come out.
Yeah.
well, yeah, anyway, we won't get into that. But, like,
Apparently there is a sixth one in the works.
but
It's
is
it's
Johnny Depp cancelled?
But why? He shouldn't be cancelled. He
I
was the
know he
victim of
shouldn't. This is what I
abuse.
wanna get into, but I don't wanna get into because it's
no, don't
bullshit
get
if he
into it
was.
here, but
But anyway, because he's great, and, like, that's the thing, like, yeah, story for another day, but I'd be interested in watching them. I hope they didn't get longer, and I hope it didn't continue in this trend of getting worse each film, because I don't know if I could watch another 2 of them, but
Well, that's what I want to know. Do you remember, is the fourth one worse than the others growing up?
yeah, I remember not enjoying it at all.
Yeah.
yeah.
Being pretty miserable. I don't know. They're all too long. All way too long.
Yeah, they should
Yeah.
be fun blockbuster films. They don't need to be they're not epics. They don't need to be
Yeah.
epics. They
Yeah.
just need to be a fun pirate film. That's all you need to be, not Lord of the
Like
Rings.
like you can
Don't
tell it's still trying to do Lord of the Rings. It's being like the trilogies work when they're 3 hours. And so
Yeah.
they're really trying to cash in on that. And
Yep.
yeah, it just is
No.
unnecessary for the kind of movie.
All right. Does anyone have anything else they want to say about Pirates of the Caribbean before we move on?
No.
Liar's Dice, cool game. Really into it.
You've mentioned it more than once. I still don't know what. I mean, I know it's a dice game, but
Because
I
it's also in Red Dead. You can play it in Red Dead.
actually, I think I remember
see,
that.
I was watching it in Dead Man's Chest. I was just like, I don't know what the rules are. I don't know how they're playing. I don't know what this is.
Oh, you
But
guys have seen The Wire, right? All right, obscure tangent for all of our listeners. There's an episode in season 3 where Tommy Cardchetty and his friend are like holding a dollar bill and they're like looking at the numbers and they're like 3 4s and they're quoting the serial numbers. Either way, they're playing the basic rule. They're playing Lies Dice but with money.
it seems like the Davy Jones one had more like risk to it.
Oh, it's
More
totally cool.
stakes, higher stakes.
All right.
souls and whatnot.
Well, thank you
What
for
are we doing
joining
next?
us for the good, the bad, and the worst. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you might like our gaming podcast, Bonus XP. It's available on all your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube. This podcast was brought to you by the fantastic book, The Taste of Iron by C.V. Clarke. Pick it up on Amazon. It's very good. Join us next week for Internal Affairs, the Internal Affairs trilogy.
No, wait, Infernal Affair.
Infernal,
Infernal?
sorry.
I was like, did I pick the wrong
I
trilogy? I
can't
don't know
read.
what I'm watching.
Infernal Affairs. My bad. It's definitely a trilogy that I see all the time on like best trilogies of all time and stuff like this. I've never seen them. What about you boys?
Oh, wow. So when you recommended it, I thought these are films that Griner must love, like
No, no, no.
obscure films. So you haven't seen them either. Okay.
I had to get off Disney Plus. We had to watch something that wasn't made by Disney. I think our
Yeah.
last like 8 podcasts have been Disney films. So
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have. So we're going to SBS.
Support,
I've
support local.
never watched them, so I'm intrigued to watch them.
Yeah. No, I'm very keen.
very good. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Drink up, me hearties, yo ho.
Can't beat that.